Hi again, Mark here from Talkingbass. This week we're going to look at an incredibly famous bass line that's not actually played on a bass. It's the main riff from the song Two Tribes by Frankie Goes To Hollywood. Now, there's a huge amount of mythology surrounding this bass line, with rumours that Norman Roy was brought in to play it, but then sampled for the Fairlight by Trevor Horn, and there's also a rumour that it was written long before Trevor Horn's involvement. Whatever, it's a wicked bass line that can be pretty hard to play, so let's take a look. As always, the lesson material and tracks can be found over at Talkingbass. Just click on the link in the info below, and while you're there, be sure to sign up for the totally free membership that provides access to a total social network for bass players. There are forums and groups to join, and over 100,000 bass players already signed up, ready for you to connect and chat with. There are also a ton of free practice resources and downloads, as well as over 450 free bass lessons and a set of premium courses for you to work through. So tons over there. Just click the link below and go check it out. Okay, so the bass line to Two Tribes is played around 130 beats per minute, and it sounds like this. So this bass line is in D minor and we're playing a low D. So you can play it on a 5-string bass or a 4-string with the E string tuned down to D. That's how I'm playing it here, and I find the 4-string method of playing it much more natural because you can whip down onto that open string rather than having to try and fret something on that bottom string. The original line sounds almost like a choppy slap bass sample, but the best way to get a consistent tone is by using a plectrum, although I will touch on a slap bass method a little later, so stay tuned for that. Here I'm using a dark glass alpha omega pedal for some extra presence and sparkle, and I'm running into the dark glass with an MXR M87 compressor just to cut down on the dynamics. So let's just work through the notes in here. So remember, I'm tuned down on that E string down to a low D. So we start up here on the C to the D, 3rd fret to the 5th fret on the A string. So it's 1 on the C and then 2 on the D. Then we're down onto the open, what is now a D string, so. Okay. Next we have the following. Okay, so we play twice on that C. Then I'm playing a ghost note so that we can keep the alternate picking working. So we've got 3 hits on the D at the 5th fret of the A string. And then we're back down onto that low D. After that line, we play the opening part, but we have 2 hits leading into it as a pickup. So, okay, so that's kind of leading out of the second part. So all of that together. Okay, so that's the first 3 parts. The 4th and final part is similar to the second part, but we have this run down from the D down to the A. So we have 2 hits on the C, 3rd fret of the A string, then the ghost note, just to keep that alternate picking working. Then we have 3 hits on that D at the 5th fret, and then we have another D. We've got the D, C, A, 5th fret, 3rd fret, open A string. So 1, 2, 3, and that's that line. So let's put all of that together slowly. 3 and 4 and. So you want to try that as slow as you need to, and then just work around on it, even if you have to get really, really slow. Then you can just start to build up speed slowly. Now, from a technique standpoint, in terms of picking, it's all pretty much just alternate picking, and you just simply need to practice it, to build it up to speed. In the fretting hand, I'm using the first and third finger, or index and ring finger, to fret the two notes there on the C and the D, and I'm using the thumb to catch the E string to choke it off. That's why I'm using the first and third fingers, because normally I'd actually just use the first and fourth fingers. But when you're using the first and third fingers, you can kind of use a clenched hand kind of system for choking the open, what is now a D string. So then I bring the thumb in to choke it off. Okay, you see there, it's kind of a clenching action. See, when I hit the open string, the thumb's kind of coming out like this. So you want to start out really slowly with this riff, getting under your fingers at as slow a tempo as you need, and then just bring the tempo up very slowly. Don't worry about metronomes or tracks to begin with, just work it up at your own pace. And then you can try with the practice tracks that I've created. So I've created tracks at 110, 120 and 130 beats per minute. So 130 is the original tempo. Okay, so let's try 110 beats per minute. Now let's try 120 beats per minute. Now let's try full speed at 130 beats per minute. As I mentioned earlier, as well as playing with a pick, you can also try slapping it. Now, I don't think this is a particularly good way of getting that sound, even though the original sequence does sound kind of slappy. But if you want to try it slapped, the best way to gain that speed is to play using double thumb technique. The notes are obviously all the same, you just have to use the exact same alternate picking that you articulated with a pick, but with your thumb. So, playing it with the thumb looks kind of like this. A bit quicker. Okay, so that's two tribes. Remember, the lesson material and tracks are all there over at Talkingbass, so just click on the link in the info below and then sign up for all the downloads, practice resources, and that amazing Talkingbass social network, which is pretty much like Facebook, but for bass players. Okay, I'll see you next week.